So I realized something last week, guys, and I appreciate you letting me share. It's that I'm the worst. I'm a terrible influence on you all, and even after asking you guys to be full on degenerate mode, I couldn't follow it up with a podcast after you guys exceeded my wildest expectations. So I feel like I need to start off the podcast by apologizing to everybody. You people are incredible. That was amazing. That was a trade deadline that surpassed any and all expectations, and only makes me excited for the offseason to come. And we're about to get to the good part of the complete madness that is the playoffs. So thank you, all of you, for being you. Thank you, Eagles, Broncos, and Cowboys, for being on 2 weeks after the madness concluded to relive it a little bit and help us sort of preview the craziness that is to come. Like I said, it was maybe a bit of a hot take. Maybe it wasn't a bit of a hot take, but that was a lot of fun, I thought. Right, guys?
Yeah, there
Oh
was a
yeah,
lot
for
of
sure.
craziness.
Definitely, probably one of the most active deadlines I can remember.
Like, again, it's one of
and
those things
also-
where I was telling someone in the league, it's, hey, we had, we just counted it up, I'm pretty sure. It includes some post-deadline taxi claim stuff, I think. But in terms of what we have to cover, 50 things. I'm sorry, it's 47? 46. Sorry, 46. I was looking at a kicker trade instead of the punter trade we're going to start the coverage with here. 46 trades after an emergency podcast midweek of people hitting 22 trades in a day. Like, are we serious? Like, again, that's awesome. That's what everyone hopes for, and that's one of the things you brag to other leagues about, saying, hey, yeah, I'd like to get activity up in this league. This just went down in another league, and everyone's kind of jealous because they love to have that happen in something they're a part of too. So well done, thank you, and you're all wonderful degenerates.
Yep,
Thanks.
That's why this league's fun.
It's true.
for sure.
So, like I said, 46 trades to go through since the last podcast. Assuming that the last trade we talked about was the Buccaneers eschewing Kirk Cousins for Taylor Heineke and a second-round pick from the Bears last time to give him some capital to go buy another quarterback or go buy another piece in his push for the postseason. Did he get one? We'll see. So the first trade we'll go over here. Bills and Cardinals swapping punters so that Cardinals can continue his race to the bottom. No extra compensation. Bill, what do we say to that?
Picks are necessary.
I agreed. Boo. Then James picking up Isaiah Simmons for nothing. I like the move for James. I've always been a believer of Isaiah Simmons, but I get it. He's going to be a $17 million linebacker next year, and may not be worth that from a production standpoint. But for free, that's not a bad price to pay.
I agree.
I guess. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have much of a stance on Isaiah Simmons at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Isaiah Simmons is definitely someone who had major hype coming out of the draft and really didn't do anything with Arizona. I mean, is the potentially still there? I guess for that price, it's. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Yep. All right, and then I helped kick off the madness post pod. 4 trades here, all post pod fueled. So again, I'll take credit where credit's due of getting right into the madness, but it was good times. Cameron Latu, Juwan Bentley, and Jelani Tavai. So the middle linebacker duo for the Patriots for Khalif Raymond, Harrison Phillips, and Robert Spillane. Did the trade extensions on Khalif and Harrison Phillips. Spillane I liked, but couldn't quite talk myself into trade extending just because of the situation he was in. But nonetheless, gave me a couple pieces to trade extend as a result of the deadline. And then, Bill, what are we all about on this podcast?
Trades?
We're all about making dreams come true.
Ah, okay.
That's what we're all about. That's what matters on this podcast. And there's been a player connected with my good friend Bill for some time. And that's Justin Fields. And there it is, finally, after much consternation, many attempts, a whole lot of different values, you finally have Justin Fields on your team with Tyler Bajan for Geno Smith.
Hey, I asked everybody that had him at one point if I could have him, and they all said no until I got to you. So I appreciate it. I'm very happy. He hasn't played yet, which is not great, but I'm very happy nonetheless.
Making dreams come true. So we're all about on this podcast. It is.
I think it's a fine move for now.
Yeah. I mean, I think in another year or two, Geno's going to be worth essentially nothing, and Justin Fields either will or won't. So,
yeah.
And then bad.
Next year with Marvin Harrison as his wide receiver 1.
I don't know. Tyson might just win the job, be a franchise quarterback. Might just end up with 2 of them out of it.
Yeah, I mean, to Cowboys' point, you could tell me a story that I would believe that either one of them is relevant longer than the other one. The Seahawks are 6-3 right now. They stay in it. They make the playoffs. Geno's not flashy, but for the price he's costing, and kind of they just need a quarterback who kind of gets the system in Seattle. They may not really replace him. They may just kind of say, cool, we're happy with you. You're not flashy, but we don't need a flashy quarterback. So let's just keep doing this thing that's working and roll with Geno. At the same time, he could completely, flame out because their schedule was painful to end the season. And, he gets replaced next year. And I think we all think that the Bears are quarterback hunting this offseason. So, is it Fields gets one more shot somewhere else? Is it he gets another shot in Chicago? What is his life extension looking like?
Do you want an answer, or are you just asking hypotheticals?
No, answers to hypotheticals are fun too.
I think everything with Justin depends on how the Bears finish the season. They've won too many games to where they're going to have 2 top 5 picks, but if Fields can play well regardless of record, very similar to last year where he played very well but they didn't win, I could very easily see them saying, you know what, that's fine, we'll trade down to 2 or 3 or wherever we end up needing to be at with the Panthers pick and get an obscene haul, and we'll take Marvin and we'll let Justin have actual receivers.
Possibility.
yeah.
That's all I think. I can't say what's going to happen. Like, for all I know, he doesn't play another snap this year because of his thumb. But if he does play, I think it all depends on, how he looks. Honestly, I think there's more of a chance that he just has a new coaching staff and he's actually not a Bear.
Well, again, it's a point. It's a theme that keeps repeating itself. It's they invest in a quarterback, they change the coach right after they invest in the quarterback, and the coach who drafts the player doesn't actually get to coach him up and develop him. So it'd be nice to see him give him a chance. Anyways, we still have 42 trades to talk through, so let's keep moving here. I traded 2 fourths for a safety. Nobody really cares. And then Geno Smith doesn't stay on my team for long. He gets flipped to the Buccaneers with Mike Evans, Blake Cashman, and a couple of 5th-round picks for Taylor Heineke, Nick Mullins, and T. Higgins. So I think everyone properly diagnosed this as I just wanted T. Higgins in this deal, and that was the big ad for me, and I probably overpaid a little bit, but I was happy doing what I was doing.
Yep. I agree with that assessment. I do think it was an overpay, but not horrible. And if that's a player you want, that's fine.
Agreed.
Yeah, I tend to agree.
Did Cashman keep it going for Buccaneers this week? No, he started to fall off a little bit. So who knows? Maybe the friendly confines of the Vikings really allowed Blake to thrive. He's in a tough spot here at Buccaneers to end the season. But, I got my queer giraffes back because T. Higgins seems to now be on the injured report for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it seems to be a theme that quite a few of the wide receivers traded at the deadline ended up getting hurt or in trouble afterwards.
Yep. All right. Then we got 3 straight Panther deals. Panthers moving a third for Landon Roberts, swapping Javonta for Trey Hendrickson with me, and then keep going actually for all 4 of Panthers deals. A fourth for Ray, and then Bengals turn around and grabbing Boye Mafe for trading Boye Mafe for Jaden Reed and Roy Robertson Harris. So again, Bengals accidentally looped someone into a 3-way trade before the deadline. Almost did it again here, or they did do it again here, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't think it was accidental. I think he just got somebody to say yes, and that person didn't know what was happening on the other side. Yeah, because Chris asked me about Ray as well, and I asked him why, and he told me. I just don't think that James asked why.
Yeah.
Jaden
he gave up Boye Mafe, but got Jaden Reed, who seems to be the only receiver on Green Bay right now. So
worth having. And Boye is just having a freaking season.
I know. That's tough, but
I think I don't know. I think the trade that stands out is still Javonte for Trey. It's still the one that stands out, and not because Trey's hurt and is probably going to miss a week or two. It's just, I don't know. It's just the one that sticks out. Like a Landon for a third makes total sense. Roy for a fourth makes total sense. Ray for a fourth. All of these make sense. The one that sticks out is Trey for Javonte.
That was a big one. And you know what? Offense or defense? I'll take it. I went from being very running back shallow to running back rich at the deadline here. I thought I was probably going to be able to make one of them move before clock struck midnight, but that didn't happen. But I've gone from having to rely on Kene and Muguali as my starting running back to Bijan, Javonta, and James Conner being back. So it's a much more comfortable position to be in.
Yeah, you definitely addressed the running back situation probably a little better than I should have. And you still have other good defensive ends that can contribute. So,
Bro, I gave you the wide receiver. I gave you the running back 2 on the year. What are you talking about?
Yeah. I gave you a first-round pick and
in the end, he's working with the Giants.
But again, this is the fun part of the deadline. It's things kind of went in waves. I had a 4-trade wave happen. Then the Panthers has a 4-trade wave happen. Bengals goes back to back, and then Saints has a nice little 3 trade here. The first one being the one we just talked about with Bengals, and then picking up Saquon Barkley for the Niners first and the Patriots third in 25, and swapping kickers while giving up a 5th with the Jets. He's got himself a nice little offense there, and on his team. He's bought a team. He's gone the approach of buying a team now at the deadline instead of necessarily waiting to draft the team, and we'll see if that's better than going to draft the team route. But it's fun to see the strategy.
Um, yeah, this is a thing that the Pats did this year. I did this last year. Saints is doing. It feels like nobody values the early to the late top 10 to early top 16 draft spot this year, and so they're all building with veterans, which I find interesting as a shift in team building here. I'm curious how long this lasts for.
That's fair. Again, and swapping kickers for the 5th. I thank you for paying something to execute the exchange. Cowboys getting in on the action here, swapping punters and giving up Duke Riley in the process. You gonna be okay with that Duke Riley on your team?
I think I'll survive. Thanks.
Always like to check in on people. This is one of those ones that you feel bad about afterwards, because I must have been offering Blake Cashman offers to Chargers for a while. Couldn't get a deal done. Traded him in a deal to Buccaneers, and then Buccaneers turns around and trades him to Chargers. It's like, well, why didn't you take the trade from me? But nonetheless, Jake Bobo, a 3rd, and Ashawn Robinson for a trade extendable guy at a decent price for doing so. Not a bad piece to add for Chargers for the future. I like making deals, and when a player I trade gets flipped almost as instantaneously as Cashman did here, it makes me just feel left out. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, especially since I think it was a solid deal for Buccaneers.
Yep. All right, Isaiah Hodgins, a 3rd, and the Saints 25 2nd for Devin White. When I first saw this, I was running, screaming to the police that Saints committed highway robbery. And then when I sat down and I thought about it, it's that 3rd on Texans is this year and should be relatively early. The 2nd is his, so again, we'll see where that lands. Probably going to be on the earlier side in 25. White is expensive. He's cheap, but or younger, but expensive. It's probably the right price for the player. Just again, feels like one of those 3/4 instead of getting $1 for it.
I don't know. I kind of think that a 2 and a 3 for Devin White is a solid deal. I think the Dolphins. I don't know what the Dolphins is thinking taking Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, outside of like making the cap work, but that's just not a player you want to have long term.
I think for Saints to give up any more would have been a bit too much. So
yeah. Plus, I mean, Isaiah Hodgins will be forever tied in this league to the Aaron Rodgers trade. So he's made a couple of stops this year. At one point, in and of himself, was worth one Aaron Rodgers. So Aaron Rodgers, a 3rd and a 2nd, is a lot to pay for Devin White. But it's a fun situation,
especially when linebackers in White's point range this year were going for 3rds and 2nds, so on their own.
Yeah. So. All right, Sebastian Joseph Day for a 4th. Boys like Day. D tackles aren't necessarily incredibly expensive in this league. Made sense. Gooseman in a back-to-back deal here, swapping Desmond Ridder to me for Patrick Surtain in a 4th. This was just comedy for me because I enjoy trading things to people who say they're worthless. And just people have made no qualms about saying that corners are not worth trading for or trading things of value for in this league. So it's fun to go pick up a quarterback who might be a starter for a corner. The hilarity did not escape me. But again, Surtain has been one of those guys you want to go get. and Ritter might be worthless in a couple of weeks. So getting something for what may be eventually nothing is not a bad move.
Regardless, this was a ridiculous deal that Goose made. I cannot believe he actually did this. Like,
just based on the potential upside of Ritter still.
Like, just the positional value alone.
Right.
And Ritter has not been told that he's not the starter. He just got sat down for 2 weeks. But Arthur Smith loves him for some reason. He's probably going to go back to being the starter after the bye week.
Yeah, Heineke hasn't been any better, so
he may not have long-term value, but this year, I don't know. Maybe if I have the injury-riddled Derek Carr, I hold on to my guy who's not hurt and just is not good. I don't know. I'm happy with it regardless.
Yep. Then moving Randy Gregory for a third to the Saints. I thought that was a lot to pay for Gregory. Rotational pass rusher on the 49ers. But those are the kind of guys that Chiefs likes to add to give us defense a little bit of a boost.
I mean, the contract is really nice, though, and he's got 3 years on it, so maybe that's a factor there, but I don't know. He is kind of like I guess Gregory is kind of sneaky old as well.
Yeah, it's just the opportunity to have a good contract and decent production.
Yeah, and he's been a name for a long time, so.
Yep.
All right, now I'm setting this up, and I have committed to when we need content, I'm going to open things up to let it be a roast mic podcast, and this might be a nice little preview of it. Amon-Ra for Alexander Mattison and Michael Pittman. It just made sense to me at the time. It was kind of a transitional trade for what it turned into. It worked. And I kind of looked at it as I need to make this trade to give myself flexibility to make other trades. I love Amon-Ra. Everyone knows that. But the targets that Pittman's getting and the connection to Minshew now and eventually Richardson when he's back was an attractive replacement for Amon-Ra. That said, I definitely sold a little bit cheap here, I think.
Yeah, Pittman's solid. He's very underappreciated. He's probably like a top 12, top 15 wide receiver as far as like targets and points and all of the important things.
Pittman's definitely one of those guys that I don't ever think is having that great of a season, and then I look at his stats and I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah, his worst game is like 13 points, and his best game's like 19, and he's just solid.
But I do really love St. Brown. I think he's probably one of the closest things to a Cooper Kupp that is in the league in terms of the amount of targets and receptions he gets per game. So
yeah, it's interesting. ASB has been moved around quite a bit this year, but I don't know. I think that I don't think I have an issue with Michael Pittman and Madison for Brown as much as I do. I'm so surprised by you and Bucks doing deals as like one seed like rivals this year. Like it's very interesting that these deals are happening between the two of you.
Well, I mean, you know me. I'll do deals with everybody, and there's probably a strategic incentive for me not to make some of these deals happen. But when people are ready to make magic happen, I'm there to participate. And I think as a result of these deals, my team got better as well. So why not have the win-win?
Yeah, you're 300 plus points. Was it 300 points this week that you put up?
Not this week, but the previous week, the week after the trades.
Yeah, I think that says that you are correct.
I will say that Madison is the most one of the more infuriating running backs this year.
He's also out for a week or two.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of him as the running back one. I liked him as a running back two, change of pace guy, but Not sure.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at it as if I needed to move off of Javonta or something else in the deal. Madison gave me at least a baseline production at running back.
Yeah.
So it was a move to make more moves, but not necessarily connected to the next move I made. Trey Palmer and Adetomiwa and Abore for Jordan Hicks. This was just a full-on, let me buy some points trade. I love Adetomiwa, but he wasn't getting on the field, and I needed production. Hicks gives me that. Palmer is another one of those, cheap third-round receivers that I fell in love with this year, who has been helpful in, spurts, but not consistent enough to actually warrant a lot of interest in the league. Nonetheless, I think he actually picked up a touchdown or four targets the last 2 weeks. So good, consistent, floor provider at the receiver position.
I think it makes sense from both sides as far as current need. Like, I would much rather have Jordan Hicks if I were you, and I would definitely rather have Trey Palmer if I was Chargers.
Yeah, I think a common theme here seemed to be teams that were really in the hunt, trying to add points, were going and getting linebackers and defensive ends in this range. That seemed to be a pretty common theme coming up here.
Yep. All right, this is gonna be fun because I don't have to talk about my team for a while. So I enjoy that not happening. Devontae Parker and Charles Harris in a third for DJ Chark. This is really where Dolphins starts the sell-off. He had already made the trade with Devin White, but this is when he goes whole hog into it. Third and, upside pieces for Chark, I think is a great price for him. So I love this for Dolphins, and I think it's a nice buy for Buccaneers too.
Yeah. Hopefully Devontae Parker finds a job somewhere else and get a little extra value squeezed out of that.
He'll find a roster, I'm sure.
I would like to see him be successful at some point. He had so much promise, and Kevin White.
He had a couple of solid years,
right? But Kevin White has been a punchline for a while now, and he was in that same class and had the same kind of hype associated with him. So it would be nice to see him, return some value on that even late in career. But we'll see what happens.
He's going to go back to Miami and flourish.
I don't think there's any jobs in Miami.
There's a lot of receivers waiting in Miami.
I mean, they need a wide receiver 3 at some point.
They have Braxton Berrios.
They have Claypool.
Yeah.
Right.
Chase
I'm
Claypool,
sorry.
yeah.
These name brand wide receiver 3s that we're talking about.
Yeah, Chase Claypool had, I think, one target the other day. That was good.
He did.
I was thinking about that in another league I'm in, where I was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to get this player. I'd love to get this player. It's like, I already have that player. His name is this. And, I need to go do something else instead. Just because I like the name doesn't mean let's go buy that player. But, sometimes you already have that player.
That can be one of our off-season podcasts.
Definitely.
Just naming all the like players.
Right. Who's the same as this guy?
All right, Bill Golston for a fifth. Good job by Panthers and Colts. Dolphins selling continues Malcolm Kuntz for 2/5. I don't know much about Kuntz. I think he's a rotation pass rusher, right?
He's rotational. He's underperformed until the last 2 weeks, and
yeah, you got some sacks here.
It's been incredibly lucky for Bucks to grab him when he did.
That's a hell of a price to pay for that production in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Cowboys 25 second for Ernest Jones. Good value.
He had offered that deal to me a little bit earlier, and I wasn't quite sold. But I figured, not only does it help me this year, it'll help me a little bit next year when my two linebackers become defensive ends. So,
well, Well, Ernest Jones becomes very expensive next year. He has to be extended because he's on a rookie deal.
Well,
I'm
but
just
he
saying,
wasn't a first-round pick.
right? So he gets renegotiated based on his finish, which is even worse.
And he's been really good at football.
I completely forgot about that rule.
This is a fine trade. I wanted Ernest Jones.
Yeah.
And I would not have paid that, but it wasn't far off of what I would have been willing to pay. So
Yeah, I tried to get him for a third, but he wasn't having it. So,
Yep.
I mean, he was going to be one of those players that he wants to pay more than a third, but he wants a second. And if he doesn't get the second, he's not going to move the player. And he got the second.
Right.
Right.
I'm sure I was one of 25 other people that offered a third-round pick for him, and rightfully so. We all got declined.
Yeah.
All right, fifth and a fourth for Adam Troutman and Isaiah Simmons. You're just stashing assets, RJ. This is what you do.
Yep. Underappreciated starting tight end. Don't know if he'll stay starting, but he has an opportunity there because apparently Denver just is not like Greg Dulcich, no matter how amazing he is when he's healthy. Troutman still was the guy with the hype coming into the season. So
Peyton's too egotistical and has to play his guys.
Then Josh Reynolds and Brian Branch for Amari Cooper. Bill, I love this for you.
Right?
I just can't quit Amari. Trading a productive but not all pro safety for an add-on to Josh Reynolds and getting the number one in Cleveland at a reasonable price is just a great move.
yep.
Yeah. It was pretty nice. My concern with Reynolds was, can he sustain as the wide receiver 2, or should I just live and die with a Brown? And I think I'll live and die with a Brown.
All right, Eagles moving Jack Cochrane for Fletcher Cox and Quentin Blake. Giving Cox a shot. He might retire. He might give it one more year, but no one's really valuing him at what he can produce. And he's just, a good floor D tackle at this point, so not a bad thing to have.
Well, the bulk of the time that this league has been a thing, he's been on the Eagles, so hopefully he finishes his career on the Eagles.
Yep. And then we're right back into the madness. Bijan, Deontay Hardy, Terrell Edmonds, for DeAndre Swift, Jalen Waddle, and Rayshon Jenkins. Bengals was talking about, hey, if Bijan moves, it's going to be for one of these offers that's a running back and a receiver for Bijan to give his team a little bit better balance. And I'll tell you what, for some of the deals that Bengals turned down for Bijan before the draft, during the draft, right after the draft, this was a cheap Bijan.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is holding out hope that Swift sustains past this year, and Jalen Waddle is obviously good. But I don't know. Chris has now shown us that Justin Jefferson is not a guarantee to stay on his roster forever, as he said.
Yeah. And I mean, by all rights, Jalen Waddle's kind of had a down year, and he still has 115 points. So,
yeah, a down year while Tyreek Hill sets records.
I've been buying Waddle everywhere I possibly can. So that's one of those things where kind of to RJ's point, hey, he's been underperforming, but I'm still in on him for that price.
Right.
Anyways, back to the Dolphins sell-off. Darrell Henderson for a fourth. I think that's great for a guy who's probably on the free agent pile a couple of weeks ago and will likely be back there in a couple of weeks. But useful, at least for now. Anthony Jennings for a fourth. same kind of thing. We'll be back in the free agent pool not too long, but productive for now. James Bradbury in a fourth for Smythe and Akella Witherspoon. It's a corner trade. I don't care.
Yeah.
Then another corner trade, Davian Howard for a fifth. Probably on the cheap side, although I'm going off of Howard's reputation, not actually on production. He's only had the 2 games this year, otherwise he's single digit. So that's probably not unreasonable price for him. And then Brian Burns for 2 seconds. I was one of many poking around at Brian Burns.
Yeah.
Him for like a second and a third or a second or stuff like that. And I kept being told that this offer was out there, but it kept not getting taken. So it's like, okay, maybe the offer went away. Maybe I'll sneak back in and get a deal done here. And then this happened. And it's like, okay, no, he was not lying. He had that offer and he was taking that offer.
This one kind of made me upset because I was going for Brian Burns too. And of course, Commanders in my own division gets him. It wouldn't have just been for Brian Burns, obviously, but I was considering. This is one of the guys I was considering trading Parsons to. It didn't materialize, but it was something I was considering.
This might be like a later comment scenario, but Dolphins played this deadline so well.
Oh, well, he realized he had a team that was very much worth poaching, and he could get a lot of picks and maybe some younger talent for what he had.
Well, not even that, but like just how he did it. Like he ignored a lot of people. He just basically was like, "I'm not going to respond. You're just going to have to send offers and hope."
Oh, he definitely ignored. That's true.
Like it was just like so well done, but in just like the most like anti-fantasy football trade discussion way possible.
Yep, exactly.
I think the other part of this is he locked in value with the players. It was almost entirely picks. He got a couple of upside shots out of it. For the most part, the price he got for players was in pick range for teams that, were willing to trade picks. So he's going to have the currency people want to acquire in the next trade cycle to, again, flip his team back to relevance. And he got at least 80% value for every player. I think Brian Burns is probably worth a first. Got 2 seconds for him, so just shy of it. But those seconds, one's going to be late. Actually, both are probably going to be playoff seconds. So, it's at least 80% value for the player.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about a Cowboys deal because some of those happen too. Picking up a tight end.
From time to time, I make some trades.
I love it. Picking up a tight end and Allen Robinson on the Steelers for Zay Jones, Foster Moreau, and a third. Giving his third away. I love this. Moreau was a roster claim from when I cut him from when he had cancer. So he paid almost nothing to get him in the first place. Zay Jones was part of the TJ Watt deal who underperformed, but this is a great sell of him, and then a third to pick up a starting level tight end and a replacement level wide receiver. I think, making the deal and only having to pay a third to go from the players you had to the players you got was a great swap.
It makes every ounce of sense for Cowboys and none at all for the Browns.
It was Browns would hit me up about trades every couple of weeks, and we always seem to want and need the same sort of pieces, so nothing ever materialized. And I realized he had 2 solid tight ends, and I was like, you know what? Let's see if we can get one of these tight ends, and it worked out.
He definitely wasn't going to give you Goddard, so you got the one that was available.
No, absolutely, yeah. Goddard was not going to happen for at least at this price.
Which, again, of course, and then as soon as the trade happens, he loses Goddard for a couple of weeks. So,
yep.
That's
and Zay Jones is now.
And Zay Jones just got arrested.
I kind of got lucky with 2 of my wide receiver sell-offs here at the trade deadline. So,
I mean, it's not going to matter. Browns is still going to make the playoffs, and he's still going to have a very strong team.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't think his team got significantly worse.
He just doesn't have a tight end.
Right, until Goddard comes back.
All right. So then Quez Watkins from the Browns to the Eagles for a fourth, and Michael Carter from the Buccaneers to the Eagles for a fourth. Another one of these where it's like, RJ, come on. I would have traded you Michael Carter for a fourth weeks ago. Like, how come this had to be with Buccaneers and not with me? Like, do I smell bad? Did I call your mom the wrong name? Like, what happened here?
Yeah, I just didn't want the points done.
I have a Banacanda. It's coming on.
Can't be traded.
Yeah.
No, these are great stashes. I like these. I like these both.
And that's the fun thing with Abanikanda, too. I know you mentioned him earlier, but, it's funny how the league works out because he looked as buried could get at the beginning of the year. You had Breece Hall with the draft capital. You had Dalvin Cook, as the hot veteran landing there. You had Michael Carter in place as kind of a do-everything third down back. So it's like there's no way. He's no path. There's no way he's going to get C touches at any point. And now it's like, yeah, he's the RB2 there at this point. Like, wait, what?
Well,
what happened?
I had a hunch that Michael Carter would get cut at some point this year. I was hoping it would be before the season started. And obviously them signing Dalvin Cook was kind of a gut punch as well. But, Dalvin Cook hasn't done much this year either, so we'll see what happens.
Yep. All right. Britt Ripon for Amir Robertson and a fourth. Ripon is now on a team, so good for Buccaneers for
just gave away pieces for nothing.
Yeah. Or give away non-pieces for nothing. Like, okay, sure. You want to give me that for that? Great.
Right.
And then this next deal is not that big of a deal. We can kind of gloss over it a little bit. I go full in on Dobbs hype train, moving off of the assembled Atlanta Falcons quarterback tandem, Jordan Mason, Alexander Madison, Michael Pittman, and Khalif Raymond for Malik Cunningham, Clayton Tune, Donta Foreman, and Bijan.
So you basically traded all that for just Bijan.
Mm-hmm.
No, Foreman's been the guy in Chicago lately.
Well, that's true. Foreman, I think, is a running back for his whole career that has been underutilized. Every time, no matter what team he's on, when he gets reps, he does pretty damn well. And no matter what, he seems to find himself out of a job at the beginning of every year for some reason.
Because his leg exploded in year 2, and nobody thinks he can sustain it for more than 1 year.
Yeah, that's true. But he's proven he can rack up some yards.
Yeah, I think he's good. But nobody will give him, extended, like a longer contract than a year, maybe 2.
Right. Don't overpay for exactly.
I think it's fine. It's a lot to give up for Bijan, but Bijan's an expensive asset. He's top 4 dynasty, top 5 dynasty asset. So
yeah, and it could be by next year. Really, the only player he gave up is Michael Pittman.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was looking at it as. Is this is what I traded Amon-Ra for, is to have the flexibility to go make a deal like this. The fact I was able to basically take the things I traded Amon-Ra for and put them right back into a Bijan level asset just sounded good to me.
Yeah.
And who knows, by the end of the year, Malik Cunningham might be the starting quarterback for New England after he gets signed and cut 6 more times.
At this point, who knows?
We shall see. And after that, Jeremy made the hard decision to push a few more chips into the middle here, picking up DeAndre Hopkins, picking up Bobby Wagner, and Jaquan Brisker for Melvin Gordon, Jamal Williams, Trenton Irwin, and Julian Love, along with a Bears 24 third, a Green Bay 25 first, and a Green Bay 25 third. So Dolphins picking up a first and 2/3 for DeAndre Hopkins, Bobby Wagner, and Brisker. That's a great buy or a great sell for Dolphins, and depending on the points, could end up being a really nice buy for Packers too. So I think it's probably a little bit on the expensive side, but Jeremy has a history of making me be wrong.
Yeah, Hopkins was another guy that I was looking at trying to get from Dolphins. His contract was obviously tough to work around, and what I offered him, he obviously didn't want. So,
yeah.
Jeremy has assembled a team of guys that were studs between 2012 and 2016.
Well, like you said, he's tearing it all down after this year without the picks now.
That's the thing now. It's, he's got to go one more year after this. He doesn't control his first. So, he either has to buy it back or he doesn't control it, and that's going to be a problem.
right. But I mean, I guess he had to go for it, or he was going to be stuck in mediocrity for a couple years.
I mean, he doesn't have a choice what happens in the offseason. Either his team retires or it doesn't.
Yeah.
All right, and then Cowboys back in the conversation, swapping kickers for Dwayne Eskridge. Again, you okay over there losing Mr. Eskridge?
Yeah, Dwayne Eskridge has really been disappointing me for 3 years now, and I finally was able to just get that headache off my team.
That's sad.
that's enough to
I
it.
believed in him,
I know you did.
even when his name was Dwayne and not D.
Yeah, I remember when I drafted him, you thought that was a good pick, and I thought it was too, but oh well.
Yep. Robert Woods for 2/4. Nice buy by the Buccaneers. Woods almost had a touchdown catch this last week. This is classic goose. Ride the player for a while and sell him when you can to get value for him. But good, a productive player for Buccaneers down the stretch here at the right price.
You skipped the Dolphins trade.
Look, we got to talk about this next trade. Like I said, it makes me sad sometimes to see what players end up going for versus what was on the table for him at different times. And again, he wasn't ready to sell the player then. Got it. Understand that. That's the first part of kind of anything. Is the player really available? And then let's start talking about price. Some of the prices that got sent for him when he wasn't really available blows out of the water. But Will Levis, Ryan Tannehill, 2 late firsts and 2 late seconds is not the price I thought he would get for that player. But all things considered, is not a terrible walking away price the way Levis has played the last couple of weeks, and with the risk that we talked about that Hurts has going on in the offseason. So again, with the benefit of hindsight, it looks fine, but that's a missed opportunity.
When Commanders made this trade, I was so upset because he not only did he get a great quarterback that probably immediately puts him into contention here, maybe even a little bit this year. He could sneak into the playoffs if he wins enough games. But also, I was playing him the next week, and that was one of the main reasons why I lost.
Yeah. Jalen Hurts is that dude. And if, for whatever reason, in the next couple of weeks, Hurts, has a hurt year, doesn't play, and he can extend him with him not being a Pro Bowler, that's just not a player that is moving off Commanders anytime soon, I don't think. So it's tough to see that kind of asset leave, but a number of assets hit the pool, which will be fun to see the Dolphins play with in the offseason. And then, Drake Jackson for a third for a second. Saints going and buying pieces that I also like. But that said, with Chase Young being there in San Francisco, it may not be as attractive a landing spot. But I also believe in the talent. I just don't know if it's still a second-round talent. And I guess that was the last trade of the deadline.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not as big of a fan of Drake Jackson for that second round pick, but I mean, the first week he put up 3 sacks, so I guess you got something to hope on.
Bosa didn't play.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, he has the pass rushing talent. It's opportunity, and there's a lot of opportunity in front of him.
Yeah.
That said, so looking at the Dolphins here, got rid of Drake Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Chris Jones, DeAndre Hopkins, Bobby Wagner, Jaquan Brisker, Brian Burns, Xavier Howard, Anthony Jennings, Daryl Henderson, DJ Chark, Malcolm Kuntz, Ernest Jones. These are all productive, helpful players who are going to, again, make a difference in the playoffs. In response, he's got, my 24 third, a fifth, 2 fifths, another fifth, fourth, another fourth, fifth, 2 seconds, 2 first, 2 seconds, a first and 2 thirds, a third and some opportunistic pieces at the same position. Will Levis, a second. I mean, I feel like he's picked up for pieces that again are going to be helpful in the playoffs, but not helpful to him right now. He picked up, I want to say, 6 top 50 picks, if not more. And then Will Levis, that's a really nice war chest to go into the offseason with.
Yeah, he's going to need to do something because he still has an old team. He's got a bunch of players that, are either on expiring contracts or are on, long-term underperforming contracts. It's interesting. He gave away all his valuable pieces, which I guess when you consider that he was 4-6, it makes sense, right? He's not going to have a lot of stuff left, but he has no roster space, no cap years, and no chance of being able to use all those picks.
Yeah, I think he was a little upset about where his team was at 4-6, maybe a little unfortunate, maybe not. And I think he just decided, screw it.
So again, I think there are a couple of teams that as soon as the season is over, may just go full tank. I'm going to make the prediction right now. Dolphins and I are going to be in competition for the 101 in 2025.
Already making that statement.
I mean,
all right.
He's shown the proclivity and the desire and the effort to get himself in position for something when he wants to be there. So I think it would be really a lot of fun to see him really go in next year and say, all right, let's rebuild this thing, flip Levis into a few more picks, flip his 24 draft cachet for 25 picks, and really just, commit to the rebuild. That being said, he may decide to flip those picks into a AFC East title next year, but he's got a lot of options.
And that division is still going to be so wide open.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we just talked about a lot of trades. We are, 55 minutes into the podcast? And we haven't talked about where we are from a playoff perspective at this point. I'll kind of go through and kind of hit the high points here. The AFC North is not going away. They are going to be the talking point in the AFC. The Colts are going to win the South, barring something crazy happening. Someone's going to win the East. Nobody really cares who that is because they're not going to win a game in the playoffs. So I think it's kind of it's kind of there. And then it's the Broncos and the
10 Seahawks.
Well, I guess. But Broncos and Chiefs are setting up on the AFC, it's looking like the 1 seed is still very much in play for a lot of teams. But these last 3 games are going to matter a lot for that. But, and the Raiders are still on the hunt, 9-5. The players are playing well at the right time. And the 7 teams haven't been decided yet. It's just going to be fun.
3 teams for the last 2 spots, all 9-5.
Yep. Well, I mean, actually, it's Chiefs and Browns. It's the last spot. It's not the last spot.
So it's Bengals, Browns, Colts, Bills, Broncos, Chiefs. So yes, we have one spot left.
Yeah, Ravens, Steelers, Raiders, all 9-5, fighting for the last spot. This is going to be fun.
So let me get clarification on this if you guys can help me out here. So Ravens, Steelers, and Raiders are all 9-5. They've all played each other. Ravens has the tiebreaker over the Steelers, but Raiders has the tiebreaker over Ravens in head-to-head. How does that work?
I think as soon as there are 3 teams involved and there's not a clear decision on a tiebreaker, it goes to the next tiebreaker.
Points.
Which, again, obviously benefits Ravens, and no one's actually.
Yeah. Please, dear God, don't have a 3-way tie for the 7th seed. Oh my God!
So again, the fight between Bill is in a dogfight for the number 1 seed with the Bengals, the Browns, and the Chiefs here down the stretch, and it could not be more important because whoever's the 2 seed gets the Ravens probably. And nobody wants that 2 seed.
Yeah, I feel like Chris is lucking out not having a quarterback because he's basically going to lose out, and he's not going to get the top 2 seed.
No, he's going to get who can catch him. There's 3 games left. The Colts are 8-6, and the East is 6-8 to the best.
No. I mean, the Bengals is going to lose out, so he's not going to win his division.
So the Browns will win the division.
The Browns will take the division because Chris doesn't have any quarterback. It's going to benefit him. Somehow it's going to benefit him. Tyrod will come back week 14, and it'll just work out in his favor somehow. But yeah, like he's probably very happy that he's getting Justin back and getting the opportunity to continue losing at the same time to avoid whatever the 7 seed hell is going to be.
Right. So, jumping to probably more conclusions than we probably should. The top 2 seeds are going to be the top team from the North and the top team from the West. That's pretty much decided.
Yep.
The top 2 wild cards are likely going to be the top team from the West and the top team from the North. That's previously been decided. 9-5 we just talked about. That's going to be just a fight to the finish. Everyone's got to win out if they want to have a legitimate shot for it. It's just going to be fun to watch. But again, we talked about the danger of being the 2 seed. The 1 seed is very helpful this year, especially because, again, that also carries some danger with it because Ravens gets the 2 seed. If Ravens wins, they're the low seed and they get the number 1 seed. So really, there's no avoiding Ravens if he gets in. It's just a matter of how many, badass teams does he take out before someone puts him in.
And Ravens is winning out. He has Seahawks, Bears, Bengals.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he's winning out. Steelers has Niners, Lions, Browns. So he could also win out potentially.
You don't think Bengals could potentially win that against the Ravens?
Maybe.
No. So Chris himself has said that that's an automatic loss given the amount of bye weeks he has that week.
Oh, I didn't look that far ahead, so maybe yeah.
Yeah, he's basically been counting that as an auto loss since week 1.
Yeah.
And Raiders has Lions, Eagles, Chargers, so they could all literally win out or all go 2-1.
Yeah.
Well, sorry, let me put it this way: Ravens is definitely winning out. Steelers and Raiders might end up going 2-1 and shoot themselves in the foot that way. So Be in the playoffs, Ravens.
So this is going to be interesting because, that last week, it's going to be, him against the Bengals. He won't have DJ Moore. He won't have Hunter Renfrow. He won't have Cole Kmet. He won't have Dexter Lawrence. He won't have Byron Murphy. He won't have Geno Stone. Like he's not missing like the best players on his team, but he's missing some critical ones, especially considering he's only rolling 36 players deep right now. So again, it's one of those where I know Chris is written it up as a loss, but he might mess around and knock Ravens out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, there's been plenty of times in this league that teams without quarterbacks have managed to put up a good amount of points and won a game. So,
well, I mean, and think about what the impact that is to the AFC playoffs. If Ravens is the 7th seed, the 2 seed becomes the worst position to be in.
Mm-hmm.
If Ravens misses the playoffs, the 2 seed becomes a very attractive position to be in because you miss out. You get either the Raiders or the Raiders or the Steelers, likely in that position. Neither are particularly super high scoring teams, although the Raiders are really turning it on recently. The 2 seed probably advances there versus if it's the Ravens, the 2 seed probably loses there. So the four teams in kind of the divisional round become whoever gets the bye between, I'll call it the Bengals and the Broncos right now. The 2 seed, if there's no Ravens. And then basically I would say the top 2 wild cards. So I would not be surprised to see some combination of the Bengals, the Broncos, the Chiefs, and either the Browns and Ravens in the divisional round. Like that's kind of who I think is getting there one way or the other. And that's just going to be like I was talking about this for the NFC side before the pod. Like you get to those games and, you just roll the dice. Like you have no idea who's going to win those because you play those matchups 10 different times and you end up with 10 different results. I know mathematically probably there's more than 10 results or whatever. I get it, but that's the uncertainty of the situation. So I think that would just be fun. Bengals, Browns, Broncos, Chiefs in some order playing in the divisional round, and I don't know who I would pick to come out of that clusterfuck.
You pick Ravens.
Ravens might not be there.
No, I get you. Like it is hard. Like Bengals is the riskiest situation because he literally has to rely on the Giants playing Tyrod again, which they don't really seem incentivized to do whatsoever. So he could just be out because of literally not having a quarterback. Browns, he's strong. He just has had some weird bounces, as has the entire North. And then me and Chiefs are, in the same boat, kind of. Like, I mean, shit, dude, I lost to the fucking Chargers. Like, like the bye week of hell for week 9 that hit so many teams definitely bit me. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be crazy. I wouldn't be surprised to see like the Bills or the Colts make it past the wild card round somehow.
Yep. Bye weeks are definitely starting to get some people. Got me last week, I think, too. So,
just to reiterate, and Bill, you know this probably better than anybody, playing Goose's team is just fucking stressful. Because you're always looking at like, okay, how's my team doing? What's this? Like, oh, what's Bill? What's he got left? And it's like, okay, well, Goose still has 2 starting linebackers and a starting DN and a starting tight end and a starting receiver. He's not a number 1, but he's a number 3 that's going to get targets. It's like, like no matter what happens here, I'm going to have to sweat this game out. Like he doesn't go. You never go into a Monday night against Goose thinking I don't have a sweat. Like,
Oh, you can now because you can't trade bullshit players right before kickoff.
Yeah.
You can't do dirty pool playing.
oh, stop that! I completely disagree with you on that being dirty pool.
No, I'm against me. It is because he can't stand on his own merit.
Shut
Against
up.
others, I don't care.
It was definitely something to raise an eyebrow at when that happened.
Look,
Yeah.
it's teams
It's within the
adding
rules. It's
points
just
for
like
Monday night. Teams adding points for Monday night, I have no problem with. The thing that has happened before that kind of rubs it the wrong way are teams shedding points or teams going after players so that they lose those games. Like I've seen players trade a starting quarterback on Monday night
That's
for a
true.
third-round pick to make
Yeah.
sure they don't get points and they lose their game instead of potentially pulling off an upset. And usually that'll involve in some way, shape, or form either that team that they'd be losing to or a team that would really benefit. Like that's where I feel dirty pool comes into play. But if I'm trying to add points because I'm trying to win the game, no, I'm making that deal every time.
I just give him shit because one, I know he doesn't like it, and two, he made so much noise about being able to be better than me. Stand on your team, bro.
I guess we're allowed to see. Look, we disagree sometimes. This is great. You know, people talk
Makes
about us
sense.
being, hive mind on this podcast. It's nice to see us disagree every once in a while.
I'm also very biased against the team we're talking about.
Yep.
So
Clearly.
All right, the NFC. The good news is things are a little bit more decided here.
Yep.
The top three teams, the teams that are probably going to win the division, are pretty well decided at this point. I think I've effectively clinched. I have 3 games to go, and I have the game up on the Packers. He would have to basically make up the 300 points to catch me. So I'm probably winning the North. Jeremy is getting in as a wild card. Buccaneers is probably winning the South, and Panthers is getting in as a wild card, likely the 5 seed. Giants is winning the East, and Cowboys you're probably going to be the 5 or 6 seed, and then it's the Rams. So the Rams will play either the Cowboys or Panthers and lose. The other wild card gets the unfortunate task of going against me or the Buccaneers, which is just going to be a beast of a game. And the other one gets the benefit of going against the Packers. Now, according to the Lions, there's like a maybe 4% chance at this point that I can technically, if I win out, jump Giants for the number 1 seed. But for that to happen, just again, why it's a 4%, I have to beat Bill, I have to beat the Bengals, and I have to beat the Packers.
very difficult.
Cakewalk.
Yeah. I'm not, skipping into the postseason here. All those, great finishes we were talking about earlier, I didn't get one of those. So very good chance Giants is the 1 seed. 4% chance I'm the 1 seed, but likely not happening. That also said, Buccaneers gets to skip to the finish. So I beat Buccaneers earlier in the year, so I have the tiebreaker right now. But if I go 1 and 2, again, with the teams I'm playing, completely possible he jumps me. So, the top 3 teams are still a little bit of, decisions of how those are going to finish. The top 2 wild cards are pretty well set, I would say. But again, the 7 teams in the playoffs are all but set right now in the NFC. And it's just going to be a matter of get to the divisional round, which likely will be some combination of myself, the Buccaneers, the Giants, and whoever plays the Rams. And then who knows what happens. Again, any of those teams can win the NFC. There is not a doubt in my mind that, Buccaneers put up 300 this week. I put up 300 last week. The Giants has the ability to do that with the number of players and the depth at positions he has. Panthers is a scary team. Cowboys is a scary team. Jeremy added at the deadline. So, that's just going to be what it is. The 7 teams are set, but I'd say there's a lot more variability. I would say probably any of the 6 of the 7 teams. I don't think the Rams can make the run, but I think any of the other 6 teams could win the NFC.
Well, who's the 7 seed? Because there's a 3-way tie for that, or there's a 3-way race for that as well.
So the 3 wild cards are going to be the Packers, the Panthers, and the Cowboys.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because I don't think I can catch.
Yeah.
Even if Giants were to lose out, I wouldn't.
I was counting this wrong. I apologize.
Yeah. So again, the seven teams are in. I think 6 of them have a chance to win the NFC. There's a lot more variability in the AFC, but I probably think there are 3 teams that I give a legitimate shot to winning the AFC. I think it's 4 teams: Bengals, Broncos, Chiefs, and Ravens. Those are the 4 teams I think have the best shot of winning the AFC. And hey, Ravens might not even make the playoffs. So you're in a position where you just get to the divisional round and just kind of let go of the wheel and hope for the best.
Can we all agree that we all are rooting against the Bucs because the NFC South cannot win it 4 years in a row?
Yeah, he won last year too, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That would be 4 years in a row NFC South with back-to-back separate repeat champions.
Because it was Falcons, Buccaneers, right?
It would be, yeah.
We're going to do our best over here in the NFC. I promise nothing, but
we believe in you.
Yeah. Look, I think that any of the Vikings, the Packers, the Bucs, the Panthers, the Giants, and the Cowboys can win the NFC. Like, I know this is like the least spicy take I can make. 6 of the potential 7 playoff teams can make it. What do you have against Rams? Like, I'm sorry, just it's what I think. But it's not exactly the spicy take to say that one of these 6 teams is going to win. Okay, great, thanks, Mike. We'll give you a minus 5,000 odds on that and let you take that right to Vegas.
Yeah, all you got to do is get in, man. Just get in, and then there's your chance.
Hey, if anybody proved there was a chance, it was the Bills a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And that just is going to be funny because the Bills has a pretty tough final 3.
He does.
The Jets does not. And the Jets have C.J. Stroud, who is making a legitimate case. But a stat I saw, which is kind of funny, and you got to give Bill credit for this. If you put the stats of C.J. Stroud and Sam Howell next to each other, it's pretty similar.
Sure. I think Sam Howell has a considerable amount more turnovers, but other than that, pretty similar.
He's also been the most demolished quarterback since David Carr.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's one of the reasons for that, for sure.
And his last 5 games, he has 8-2 touchdown interception ratio. He's doing very well, and if they move on from him, they deserve to be cursed for however long that curse lasts for.
Oh, that would be stupid for sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of them has 2,626 yards. The other one has 2,783. One has 15 touchdowns. One has 17 touchdowns. One has 1 rushing touchdown. The other has 2 rushing touchdowns with about 100 yards rushing. One's turned the ball over 6 times. One's turned the ball over 11 times. That's kind of the big difference between the 2. But otherwise, you take everything but the turnovers into account, and the stats aren't that dissimilar.
Yeah.
But Stroud is getting noise for the MVP race, and Howell is getting noise keeping his job. So, again, we'll see how the story keeps developing on the NFL side. But,
Stroud's having like the best statistical rookie year of like a quarterback in a long, long time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean,
like Cam probably has the best one ever.
Right.
But yeah, this is crazy.
Stroud is definitely the most pure passer that I've seen as a rookie, especially in a very long time.
Well, again, and the really fun part about this from the preseason was everyone coming into the season is like, just from the rushing. Obviously, you want Anthony Richardson. He's worth redraft value right now because of the rushing side. But yet, C.J. Stroud is killing it from a passing side.
I thought Stroud should have been the should have been the first pick in the draft for a long time. But
Apparently,
but I'm an Ohio State fan, so I'm a little biased. But
well,
yeah,
apparently Frank Reich wanted Stroud.
really,
Yeah,
Well, like the fantasy assessment is you can't always predict somebody's going to be a top 10 pocket passer or something like that. So
oh
you
no,
might as
definitely
well-
not in fantasy, but like in terms of like real NFL, I thought Stroud should have been the first pick.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, and Stroud like failed his cognitive assessment or something like that
Who
about
cares?
processing, and like he's just crushing that right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's so crazy to watch what he's doing.
Well, again, it was funny because the offseason, everyone was kind of touting that assessment. Like, we finally have it. We finally have the measurement that's
Yeah.
going to tell us whether a guy is good at football or not, or whether
Yeah.
they're going to completely bust. And we're ready to share it with people. And then the first time out after they hyped it, it's just been wrong.
The only true evaluation is what they do during the game. I mean, that's the only real way you can.
It can't test for whether they have that dog in them,
Exactly.
I
as
mean,
they say these days.
it's just so much fun because you tell the story of the Texans and the Panthers. And, you know, if I tell the story of the offseason of the Panthers and the Texans, you bet on the Panthers of being more successful 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
Like, it's not even a question. Like, Panthers went and got Adam Thielen to give their guy a more reputable guy to throw to while he's developing. The Texans decided that, okay, you know, Robert Woods is good enough, but we drafted a guy in the 3rd round. Maybe he'll be kind of good. Like, these are the cast off. These are the nobodies. These are we are not investing in the position yet because we need to be patient. We're just getting the quarterback first type of guys that you put in there. These are the replacement level. But the Panthers went and got, you know, better than replacement level players to put in that position. But one of these teams is in the playoff race, and the other one is likely giving their 1st round pick to be the 1st overall pick to the Bears, who
And
are
ironically, the Panthers beat the Texans.
yeah, which again makes no sense to anybody.
Nope.
I don't know.
It's going to be so much fun to watch the AFC South for the next 10 years.
Again, I don't know about your guys, fantasy leagues. One of the other ones that probably my biggest league. We have 8 teams at 5-5 right now. The current leader of the league is 6-4, and the team in last place is 3-7. Like, I don't know if everyone else is having that level of parity in their leagues right now, but that just kind of feels like every league I'm in at the moment is nobody has separated themselves. No one's out of it. Everyone is just, slogging at this point. And it's like, well, makes trade deadlines a little bit more interesting to figure out what people are going to do. But it just feels like just wacky year.
I'm in a 12 team where the top team is 8-4. One team is 4-8, and everybody else is 500 or better. Oh no, sorry. There's 2 5-7 teams, but then, yeah. So there's 3 under 500 and 9 500 or better.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, just nuts.
There's definitely quite a few leagues that are have a lot of parity this year. So
I just feel like, maybe it's depth. I don't know what it is, but it just feels like fantasy football this year has a lot more parity than it has in the past, which, is just more fun for everybody, I think.
Until you lose.
Well, look, having a 10-team league and 1 through 9 are 5-5 or better. Like, what do you do in that? Like, okay, I'm not necessarily, building for next year because I'm still writing
Right.
new things.
Right. Oh, man. Crazy times. Crazy times.
I love it. Anyways, appreciate everyone being a little bit more patient to let us get through some of this stuff. hour and 20 minutes here, so I can get a little bit more full podcast than we have. We'll see what we do next week. Things may have solidified a little bit more in terms of the playoff race and the playoff positioning. I think the last week's going to decide it for everything, so we'll see, again, where things are. But with no trades to talk and with no major moves really to be made and only kind of how things have transpired to talk through, kind of some thin podcast. So, like I said, we'll do a roasting of the Giants, a roasting of the Vikings. We'll do maybe a roasting of the Giants too, because everyone likes making fun of the Giants. And we'll see what else we do here. But I think everyone is looking forward to the trading reopening, and this is just going to be fun. Like this postseason is just going to be absurd, silly, stupid. You can't get pissed off about losing because who knows how all this is going to break.
Yep, it's always a fun time. So we'll see what happens.
Countdown to January 9th.
I appreciate you having that date handy. I was not going to, but you again have shown your skill at podcasting by going and getting that. So thank you, RJ. Nonetheless, we'll talk to you guys next week. I'd say good trading, but you guys already did that. That was so much fun, just wild and crazy. You guys are wonderful, wonderful teammates and league mates to be in this with, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So until next week, good luck, and let's see how things unfold.
Yep, we appreciate